West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Today, the White House said 2.2 million Americans got a vaccine shot in the last day. 2.2 million shots in a day. That's huge. That is the largest number of shots in a single day in this country since the spring, since May. Over 2 million Americans getting a shot in a single day is a really good sign that, yeah, it shows that we're worried, but it also shows that for the most part, we get what's going on here. We get what is needed to be done. We understand the rational steps that must be taken to protect ourselves and to protect our country. At least most of the country does. Of course, alternatively, instead, you could, dip your baby in landfill mud. Maybe that'll work instead. And while you're dipping your baby in landfill mud, why not eat some of that dirt yourself? Just ingest a little bit every day, or ingest a lot. Try baking it into your cookies. Maybe that's a better idea for how to handle this whole problem. Magic dirt. What? This is a real thing that the anti-vax people are doing now. And you are forgiven if you think that I'm joking, or if you're finding it hard to keep up with what exactly the anti-vaccine folks are putting into themselves now. It can be hard to keep up with. But there are journalists who have been watching this stuff, and we are better off for knowing what they have been able to document. As unbelievable as some of it is, we have to know that this is what's happening. Even as most of the country is getting their act together, some of the country really is not. And it seems to be getting worse over there. About 2.5 months ago, NBC News reported on what reporter Ben Collins called vigilante treatments that were being promoted in anti-vaccine Facebook groups, where the anti-vaccine people were going so far as to tell people that they should pull their family members out of hospitals. They should pull tricks on hospitals to even pull their gravely ill family members out of ICU wards, to instead bring them home and treat them with ivermectin and other great ideas you can learn about from sports podcasters and on Facebook. Quote, some people in groups that formed recently to promote the false cure ivermectin and anti-parasite treatment have claimed extracting COVID patients from hospitals is pivotal so they can self-medicate at home with ivermectin. But as the patients began to realize that ivermectin by itself is not effective, the groups have begun recommending a series of increasingly hazardous at-home treatments, such as gargling with iodine and nebulizing and inhaling hydrogen peroxide. They're calling it part of a, quote, protocol. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America recently had to put out a warning against nebulizing hydrogen peroxide. Nebulizing means literally putting it in a freaking inhaler, like an asthma inhaler, and then hydrogen peroxide, really? That reporting was from NBC News from September. But what they were talking about there, by November, there it was, spotted in the wild. Vice News reporting on the QAnon cult offshoot that sent hundreds of Trump supporters to Dallas, Texas recently, where they had convinced themselves they were going to witness the revivification of President Kennedy and also his son. It's astonishing. This is Vice's headline on that reporting. Quote, the QAnon JFK cult in Dallas is tearing families apart. Quote, Katie Garner's sister left her family behind and drove to Dallas about a month ago and has cut off almost all communication with her family. Her phone calls and messages are also being monitored, according to Garner, who believes her sister will never return. Quote, she left her children for this and doesn't even care. She's missing birthdays and holidays for this. She truly believes this is all real and we're the crazy ones for trying to get her to come home, but she won't, Garner said. I don't believe she will ever come back from this. We are in mourning. Quote, according to Garner, her sister has so far handed over about $200,000 to the group, and she is being forced to drink a hydrogen peroxide solution and to take, quote, biopellets to ward off COVID-19. Drinking hydrogen peroxide and taking biopellets to ward off COVID. But last month, NBC News also reported on how anti-vax folks were also telling each other that they could undo any vaccination they might have had, sharing information online, including with popular TikTok videos, about how you can bathe in borax, the cleaning solution. You can put borax in your bathtub, and then you get in your bathtub with it, and the borax will suck the vaccine out of you through your bathwater. It'll also take care of your nanotechnologies and your radiation and stuff. What else? Well, now today, it's apparently magic dirt. New reporting today from NBC News' Brandy Zadrozny. Quote, the social media post started in May. Photos and videos of smiling people, mostly women, drinking mason jars of black liquid, slathering black paste on their faces and feet, or dipping babies and dogs in tubs of black water. They tagged the posts hashtag BOO, B-O-O, and linked to a website that sold a product called Black Oxygen Organics. Black Oxygen Organics, or BOO for short, it was marketed as fulvic acid, a compound derived from decayed plants that was dug up from an Ontario peat bog. The website of the company that sold it billed it as the end product and smallest particle of the decomposition of ancient organic matter. Put more simply, the product is dirt. 4.5 ounces of dirt, sealed in a sleek black plastic baggie and sold for $110 plus shipping. Quote, online groups are filled with true believers, acolytes who call it magic dirt. They post that they're drinking, cooking, soaking, snorting, and slathering BOO on their bodies and giving it to their families, children, and pets. Who would have thought drinking dirt would make me feel so good, one person said in a 27,000-member private Facebook group. She posted that statement alongside a photo of her face nuzzling a jar of black liquid. Another user posting a photo of a baby sitting in a bathtub of water colored a deep caramel. BOO, BOO proponents say it protects against and treats COVID-19 and can be used to detox the newly vaccinated, according to posts viewed by NBC News. Brandy Zadrozny goes on to describe the work of one online activist who noticed on Google Earth that the bog that sourced the peat for this dirt appeared to share a border with a landfill. That pushed several folks who were critics of this whole movement to take matters into their own hands and send bags of this stuff to labs for testing. The results of 3 of these tests, viewed by NBC News and confirmed as seemingly reliable by 2 soil scientists at U.S. universities, showed that the dirt contained elevated levels of lead and arsenic. NBC also arranged for its own expert test of the dirt at a trace element at the Trace Element Research Lab at Ohio State. That result also found dangerous levels of lead and arsenic in this dirt that people are eating and smearing all over their bodies and bathing in. But sure, dip your baby in it and your dog and bake it into your brownies because you're too health conscious to take the COVID vaccine. We are right now gearing up for a whole new fight with a whole new variant. And maybe this variant will turn out to be a pussycat. Maybe it'll turn out to be nothing. Even if it turns out to be a bad one, we do have new and better technology than we did before, tests and vaccines and treatments. But you know, it's not all of us. I mean, here's the head of a big TV Christian ministry this week who hosted anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists on his Christian TV network. He died painfully of COVID this week. Here's a Republican official in Michigan, actually one of the two officials who actually did try to block the certification of Michigan's electoral votes after the election when he got a call from President Trump encouraging him to do that. That Republican official in Wayne County, Michigan, was loud and proud about how the COVID and the COVID vaccines were all a plot by the Democrats just to panic everyone and steal more elections. He died this week after a long stretch on a ventilator. Terrible way to die. We've got all the pieces. They are coming together. You can see the concept of how this could become something manageable, something that we could beat, something that we could get levels of transmission down low enough that this could be something that feels like history. You can see how the pieces are coming together, right? We know what we got to do. But at the same time, we've got, the Republican governor of Florida hiring as the state surgeon general one of these quacks who's been promoting hydroxychloroquine and saying masks don't work and people don't need the vaccine. That's who's the surgeon general of Florida right now, thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis. Right? I mean, we've got Facebook and TikTok and all of these other online engines circulating increasingly insane fake cures and fake, preventatives that people are willing to put themselves in incredible danger to take rather than getting vaccinated. We've got all the pieces we need to put together. And we've also got a part of the country that is literally eating lead and arsenic-laced dirt instead and feeding it to their kids. They are Americans too. They are our family members in some cases. They are members of our community. They are Americans too. They are our compatriots. They are our responsibility and we are theirs. It cannot be that we give up on them. It cannot be that we ignore them. We have to try to understand them, and there has to be some way through this.
It is Friday, the 3rd of December of 2021, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Well, that's putting it in the hopper, Ed. Yes, it's Friday. And we have a bit of humor here on this day because, hey, the French 77s are all virtually mixed, poured, and ready for our imbibing pleasure in the virtual world. Do take care. It is a potent spirit no matter what platform you are on. Even the digital, even the analog. They are, well, yeah. Now just say they're powerful spirits. Speaking of powerful spirits, how many more kids have to die in our schools? I guess to the GOP, they want all the guns in the hands of people who will kill because they're a death cult. Look how they fight so hard for COVID. They want COVID to be spread. In their minds, addled as it is, they believe that the spread of COVID will give us all natural immunity. I'll tell you what's a natural immunity: death. If you die from COVID, you will never catch a disease, any disease, ever again. That's how good of a natural immunity death is. I don't quite understand how people believe this. But then I was reminded, oh, wait a second. I've known Moonies, I've known Rajneeshis, I've known Scientologists, I've known any number of weird cults. Scientology is weird. I'm sorry if you're a Scientologist out there, I'm just saying it, okay? I'm a Catholic, and by being Catholic, that means I belong to one of the oldest cults in the world. So I'm a little, shall we say, hypersensitive to all these new cults arising. Okay. Anyway, I was reminded of these various cults. Heaven's Gate. Yeah, let's all jump on Hail Bop. What? You put on a tracksuit, get on a bunk bed, and take some poison because you think that's going to get you to the comet? And these people that belonged, for instance, to Heaven's Gate weren't really a bunch of dimwits, not like we know now. So, here in Southern Oregon, I find something quite odd. There's been a preponderance, I don't know, but they're a little behind the times here. Trump-Pence signs going up everywhere. I thought Pence was on the way out. I thought Trump hated him. Of course, we know that the brains of these people aren't necessarily up to speed to begin with. But anyway, there has been an increase in the amount of signage for Trump. And I guess because that's all the signage they can get is with Pence, that's what they're putting up. The ISIS trucks driving all over the place with their gigantic American flags and Trump flags, giant ones, flying off these monster trucks. Seeing a few more of those now. I was wondering what was up. Is it just the January 6th committee? Is that it? Was it the oral arguments in front of SCOTUS about Roe v. Wade out of Mississippi? Was that it? Or has there been a call to arms and people are mustering again? On a little bit of personal business that is tied in with all of this dynamic, my younger brother, who you know is a Trump supporter, quite virulently so, has been, first he got COVID, denied it was COVID. Won't take any vaccines. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. It's like he wasn't born in our family. But he got through that. But then he also has some, bodily structural issues. He's a pretty big guy, and he's damaged his body over the years. He used to, I keep forgetting, he was a very good motocross racer, competitive motocross racer. But he's big, and those guys tend to need to be smaller, lower center of gravity and such. But he's a strong, big kid. Kind of makes Schwarzenegger look tiny. Just saying. Okay? And so I presume that a lot of his issues up in his neck and back and around that area goes back to his motocross days. It could be. But regardless, he was in the hospital for that. And things were a little bit more dire than even he anticipated. Well, he wouldn't have anticipated the direness. He denies it all anyway. But a lot more dire than my sister, the nurse, had anticipated. But he got through it. And, of course, my brother and I are estranged since not this Thanksgiving, but last Thanksgiving, had a little shouting match and haven't really talked to each other since. Well, my mom did call him up because, come on, that's her baby. And I still care about him. I come from the side that, yeah, he and I have grave divisions. When I say grave, I mean it seriously. Grave positions on politics, religion, etc., etc., etc. And she did have a talk with him, and just as moms will, she loves the kid. That's like I said, that's her baby. And he did acquiesce a bit and, wished good wishes to me as well. And, of course, he had to put in the rejoinder, even though I don't agree with his politics. Which is funny. Coming from a guy who never walked a precinct ever in his life, where the rest of us did. He was the baby in the family, and I guess by the time he got to that age where he would be doing that, maybe my parents got tired. I have no idea. This is not any defense on my part. In fact, it's an accusation on my part. When I went away to college, I really didn't pay attention to my baby brother anymore. Not like the way I should have. Concerned about his development, who his friends were. Interceding in a way that an older brother would to direct his younger brother on the straight and narrow. I didn't do that. But the crowd that he fell in with, typical Orange County guy. And I guess you can tell where that went. The trajectory that my brother, who is a Trump supporter, went. Abbreviated education, meaning, well, he was sent to continuation school because he was too much of a delinquent for regular school. So, of course, he's going to have a problem with authority. And what's funny is I've noticed, now this is anecdotal, I noticed that the kids that I knew back in the day who had problems with authority grew up to be authoritarians. Why is that? Why? Now, I'm not saying the ones who had problems with authority because the authorities were keeping people from voting, like black people, brown people, yellow people, women people. I'm not talking about those people who had problems with authority. I'm talking about those who would ride a motorcycle off the roof of the school to show off during school time. Like that's okay. I'm sticking it to the man. Guess who the man is now? Yeah, you and me, the liberal. So I love that my politics is suspect. Which I have to say, my politics are pretty much just maybe to the left of Eisenhower in terms of fiscal responsibility. Like the interstate highway system, that socialist project. My politics are suspect. The politics of trying to make it so that people are registered to vote. The politics that Black Lives Matter. The politics that we have to stop the fascist uprising in America. The politics that we need to do something about our infrastructure. The politics that we should be able to carry a big stick, speak softly, but don't lord over everybody. The politics of representative democracy. That is what is suspect. That is what he is looking down his nose on. We're all just a bunch of fools. Liberal fools. Yeah, so I guess you can tell I'm a bit peeved at that assessment. My politics? Right. I'm not part of a party that stormed the Capitol to overthrow the U.S. government violently. My party didn't storm state houses with guns. My party is not calling up election officials and threatening their lives, and if you're not getting through to the election officials, then you go after their neighbors and their extended family. Even the extended family of the neighbors. My politics are suspect. Not the politics of hate, division, violence, authoritarianism, racism, bigotry, fascism. That is ostensibly pure and all-American. Jesus Christ. I love my brother. But I got to tell you, I guess the Kennedys have the same sort of idea about old RFK Jr. too. Jesus. Not many go on the record, though. Do they? No, they don't. Well, enough of this personal family stuff. Boy, was that a HIPAA violation? Maybe. Maybe not. Anyway, we do have a curated show, as you know. As you know. Now, I didn't ask my brother, as was reported at the top by Rachel, that anti-vaxxers are literally eating dirt to fight COVID. I didn't ask him, but he has done all of that the weird stuff. I mean, he did the horse paste. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he ebulized, aerosolized hydrogen peroxide, but I wouldn't put it past him. Okay. I just as an aside, I mentioned how big my brother is. Well, I suspect he did take a few steroids and some human growth hormone over the years, and that's not good. Not good. And I've noticed quite a few of the maggots of a certain age seem to be on human growth hormone. I'm sure they're taking Cialis and Viagra. I'm sure of it. No wonder they have heart problems. Be careful, folks. Jesus. A big penis might, give you an enlarged heart too, and that's not good. I did not ask my brother if he's eating dirt, but I wouldn't put it past him. Would not. Anyway, the dirt that these folks are eating and immersing themselves in, the bog of dirt that they're selling from across the nation, across state lines, you would think that'd be illegal. Dangerous levels of lead and arsenic, okay? They'll do that, but they won't take a peer-reviewed vaccine, okay? It's our politics that are suspect. Our politics. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe as we continue on this fabulous Blue Moon Spirits Friday? A federal judge blocked Greg Abbott's Texas social media censorship law before it takes effect. Did you know that Abbott really thinks that he can get away with this? I wonder why. Oh, yeah. Texas Republic. 212 House Republicans voted to shut down the government before the holidays because they don't want federal workers to have the vaccine. They hate federal workers. And the Capitol Insurrection Committee has interviewed 250 people so far. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where more than 60 organizations urged the UN General Assembly to investigate atrocities in Yemen. And Human Rights Watch reported the killing of Myanmar protesters in March by the military was planned and premeditated, and the perpetrators must be brought to justice. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the right of the page is the chat room link, right there by the social media scroll. And the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the left of that chat room link across the page, near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, there is the link to our Patreon page. And if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, if you could afford, for instance, the cost of what you might spend on an espresso-type coffee drink, and if you could afford to send those funds our way once a month, it really helps us in our ability to pay our bills, keep up the software upgrades that are always needed, and, of course, the machinery that tends to wear out. All this planned obsolescence. I thought we learned our lesson about that. Apparently, we didn't teach it as an adverse type of thing, and now it's back as part of the business model again. Anyway, it's the life we have to live until we can change it. And that means that we do have to continue buying the machinery when it wears out. And we can limp these babies along, and that's what we've done quite a bit over the almost 11 years now of continuous 24/7, 365 resistance broadcasting. And we have you to thank. It is your generosity that has helped us pay our bills, fly under the radar, and continue this resistance against the hostile takeover of the United States of America. Thank you for your generosity, and we're going to need more of it. I'm just saying. Okay, anyway, thank you. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, it's so simple. You just go to @NetrootsRadio. Tom takes care of that. Thank you, Tom. Follow me on Twitter @Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime and then get posted up on Twitter. So that's a reason to follow me on Twitter, is to get the show notes and links diary in, rather accessible fashion. Accessible fashion? Anyway, that's where the real reportage is in the show notes and links, or at least you can find the real reportage that way. And you'll get the full story, and that's what we want. We want you to have the full story. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and please do pick up podcasts by way of, so far, Spreaker. I guess, I don't know, maybe we'll have a few shows on Spreaker, I guess, this weekend. I'm just giving you a little bit of a heads up here. I actually got a survey from Spreaker about how much I would recommend it to other people. Well, it's an easy platform. It has great interface, graphics. They have a player. It's good that way, but it's getting a little spendy, especially for those of us who are just paying our bills. We're not buying mansions. And at some point, we have to go with a more cost-effective podcast hosting service. And this weekend, we will be moving a lot of the archives off of Spreaker and probably put it in the Wayback Machine on the Internet Archive. So we'll give you a heads up about where to find the archives. And we already access the Internet Archives for all sorts of things, and the Wayback Machine is one of the great ones that we should all be utilizing. But anyway, we're going to begin our archive transfer this weekend, and then we're going to have to figure out a podcast hosting service by the end of the month, because that's the timeline Spreaker has given us. Anyway, for now, you can get podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Okay, let's get into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. Our snoozing sous chef is snoozing away, but that's because it's his job and he's well paid to do it. Well fed, too. Ariana Garcia of the Houston Chronicle, their online entity known as cron.com. Okay, just letting you know. But she does bring us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A federal judge in Austin yesterday, Wednesday, blocked Texas's social media censorship law, which prohibits large social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter from censoring users based on their political viewpoints. Well, he didn't care about liberals getting blocked. He hated it when it was he, other members of his death cult, and Trump et al. The law, known as House Bill 20, was signed by Abbott on September 9th and set to take effect today. However, U.S. District Judge Robert Pittman wrote in his ruling that the measure interferes with the platform's First Amendment right to moderate content disseminated on their platforms. Pittman called content moderation the very tool that social media platforms employ to make their platform safe, useful, and enjoyable for users. Pittman also said, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled several times that private entities have the right to exercise editorial judgment and choose what they want to publish, and cannot be compelled by the government to publish other content. Yeah, but I guess there's no precedent in the Supreme Court anymore, so they can do whatever they want when they want to do it on a whim. House Bill 20 also sought to allow users to sue if they are blocked from posting on a large platform or if their posts are removed, which Pittman said threatens a myriad of lawsuits based on individual examples of content moderation. Yeah, can I sue Facebook? I don't think so. Pittman also took issue with the law applying only to social media platforms with at least 50 million monthly users in the U.S., which he said would exclude platforms like Parler, I don't know, and other sports and news websites. You mean other sports like Barstool? Oh, I'm just wondering. He also said some of the law's terms were prohibitively vague. The court is convinced that social media platforms, or at least those covered by HB 20, curate both users and content to convey a message about the type of community the platforms seek to foster, and as such, exercise editorial discretion over their platform's content, Pittman wrote. Texas officials are expected to appeal because Russ never sleeps. Trade groups that challenged the law claimed it would infringe on their editorial discretion over their platforms. Texas's law would have forced online platforms to pull the referees from social media sites giving anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists, and insurrectionists free rein. Adama Kofasevich, head of the tech group Chamber of Progress, said in a statement to USA Today. Today's court decision is a big victory for social media users who want less hate speech and misinformation on their online communities. Of course, that's exactly what the repugs want on online communities. Critics of the bill also said a provision in the law prohibiting email service providers from impeding transmission of email messages based on content could also lead to an excess of spam emails. The bill says you cannot impede email based on its content, which is what every spam filter does. Eric Goldman, a professor at Santa Clara University of Law, said, in a September Washington Post op-ed, Abbott argued the need for the law has been apparent for years. He also voiced support for the measure in a Twitter video, saying, freedom of speech is under attack in Texas. There is a dangerous movement by some social media companies to silence conservative ideas and values. Well, you know what? Those values are predicated upon hate, violence, insurrection, anti-American content, and violence. A similar Florida law was quickly blocked by taking effect by a federal judge in June, which Pittman also noted in his order. That law would have fined social media companies for removing or banning speech by politicians. Politicians like Trump. Josh Israel of the American Independent brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. A total of 212 House Republicans voted against a bipartisan agreement late last night to avert a federal government shutdown. The far-right House Freedom Caucus said a shutdown was needed to stop COVID-19 safety rules. They always fight for the disease. The continuing resolution, which passed 221 to 212, will allow the government to continue operating until February 18th of 2022. Just one Republican, Adam Kinzinger, voted in favor. What? Lynn didn't? We all have a responsibility to make sure that the government can function, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters before the vote. But several House Republicans aligned with the Freedom Caucus, a coalition of the most conservative members of the House Republican Conference, disagreed. Conservative members, most extreme? I think you would say they're extremists. That's what I would say. For weeks, they have argued that because Biden's administration wants to require individuals working for businesses with 100 or more employees to get vaccinated or get tested weekly for COVID-19, Congress should defund the entire executive branch. No member of Congress exercising their authority to control the power of the purse under Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States should vote to fund an executive branch that is requiring unconstitutional vaccine mandates on American citizens in the private sector, or foolishly and wrong-headedly mandating the COVID-19 vaccination of government personnel, they wrote in a November 16 letter. With the current continuing resolution set to expire today, they preferred to leave hundreds of thousands of public servants furloughed without pay right before the holidays. Any government spending bill that continues funding the unconstitutional vaccine mandate is intolerable, Andy Biggs of Arizona argued last month. In a video backing the shutdown yesterday, Thursday. Sorry if I kept saying yesterday, Wednesday on some of these other articles. Virginia Representative Bob Good argued that stopping COVID-19 safety efforts is the number one issue in the country right now. No. I would think that maybe stopping the virus would be a good thing to do, not the vaccine that stops the virus. Biden's vaccine mandates are unpopular among Republicans in Congress, but widely supported by the American people. Well, that doesn't matter. We're just little people anyway, aren't we? Jelinek of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The House committee investigating the Capitol insurrection has interviewed about 250 people so far, its chairman said yesterday, Thursday, a staggering pace over just 5 months as lawmakers work to compile the most comprehensive account yet of the violent attack and plan to hold public hearings next year. Members and staff have conducted the interviews in private, and most witnesses have appeared voluntarily. The committee has subpoenaed more than 40 people, and lawmakers said that only 2 have defied outright their demands so far. The investigation began in late July. Representative Benny Thompson said in an interview that the committee has deposed a wide range of people, from members of former President Donald Trump's administration and White House to election officials in crucial swing states such as Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, who were pressured by Trump and his allies as he pushed false claims of election fraud. Looking ahead to next year, Liz Cheney of Wyoming, the vice chairwoman, and said the committee anticipates it will hold multiple weeks of public hearings, setting out for the American people in vivid color exactly what happened every minute of the day on January 6th here at the Capitol and at the White House, and what led to that violent attack. All right, let's get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, the power behind the throne. In an age where the term icon is overused, each of the Williams sisters are just that in the world of professional tennis. For a parent, raising one such phenom would be a feat, but their father Richard turned out too. However, as King Richard shows, the man and his approach towards parenting and coaching was a bit complicated. Half biopic and half sports flick, this one follows the Williams sisters from their modest upbringing in Compton to international stardom. Calling Richard a pushy parent would be an understatement. As he shares with anyone who'll listen, he had a 78-page plan to make his daughters champions before they were born. In addition to rigorous practices, the girls and their 3 older sisters were expected to excel academically, all while remaining humble. Richard's approach raises some eyebrows and isn't necessarily aligned with that of his wife, Brandy, played by an amazing Ingenue Ellis in a powerful, if often understated, performance. Whatever Richard's issues, there's no denying that he's onto something as the Williams sisters' successes mount. There's also no denying that Will Smith gives his best performance in years here. Non-glamorously, Smith portrays Richard as equal parts caring and pushy, with glimpses into regret concerning his own life. The line between supportive parenting and living vicariously through one's kids isn't always clear, and it's a credit to director Ronaldo Marcus Green that Richard doesn't come across as either villain or saint, but as a fully formed, complex person. Since the Williams sisters are executive producers, it's unlikely he would have been portrayed negatively, but it's Smith who elevates the proceedings here. King Richard does a good job showing the team infrastructure behind the star or stars here, all while spotlighting an interesting and eccentric character. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? But did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
The prominently displayed banner read, "F*** you, Joe Biden," and below that, "and F*** you for voting for him."
I'm Baratunde Thurston from The Onion, and also, mother. You're listening to the Civil Liberties Minute with ACLU attorney Bill Newman.
2 homeowners in Plymouth, Connecticut hoisted this banner, the words "prominent" in bold white letters on a blue background, which, not surprisingly, caused local residents to complain to the town's police chief, who went to the state's attorney, who told the police chief that the banner was First Amendment protected speech. Resident Michael Stoto, who raised the flag in Connecticut, told the Hartford Courant that he did so because, "I hate Biden. I think he's an ignorant fool. It's the best $9 I ever spent on Amazon because it's ticking people off and opening their eyes." These banners are widely available, and so the story has been repeated in towns across the country, which constitutionally actually is the right result. However crass, a property owner's ability to criticize the president is protected by the First Amendment, according to Dan Barrett, legal director of the ACLU of Connecticut. But that's not the end of the story, because those who disagree with the content or disapprove of the words have their First Amendment rights too. To condemn, speak, write, protest, picket, boycott, march, assemble, organize, rally, broadcast, hold forums, post lawn signs, produce shows on local cable access, and of course, hoist their own flags.
The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1946. That was the day a general strike erupted in Oakland, California. Workers, mostly women, had been on strike for a month at 2 downtown department stores. Teamsters honored their picket lines and refused to make deliveries. Infuriated owners of Hastings and Cons demanded their merchandise and turned to the city for help. And on this day, police assembled early in the morning to clear the streets of picketers. They attacked strikers, forcing them off the street and setting up a perimeter of machine guns to escort scab delivery trucks through the line. One striker recalled, "I was black and blue for 6 months" from their clubs. Outraged truck drivers, bus drivers, and streetcar operators all stopped, got out of their vehicles, and joined the strikers, quickly filling downtown Oakland. By the end of the day, the city was completely shut down. 142 AFL unions called for a labor holiday in support of the strikers, and now 130,000 workers were on strike in solidarity. UAW member Stan Weir recalled that it was the bus drivers, many just returned from the war, who led the strike. The streets that night had a carnival-like atmosphere. War vets led a march to City Hall to demand the resignation of the mayor and city council for their attempts to break the strike. The general strike quickly forced the administration to stop the scab herding. But local labor leaders were divided over what some considered a near insurrection and called the strike off 54 hours later. The retail workers were left to fight on their own for another 5 months. But for a few days, workers got a taste of their own power. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 44 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high of about 54 degrees, cloudy early with peaks of sunshine expected late. Winds light and variable, partly cloudy overnight with lows near 40. Winds light and variable, highs tomorrow about 53 with intervals of clouds and sunshine, and it looks like we will have increasing clouds with precipitation beginning on Sunday through Monday, and it looks like we'll have snow by the middle of the week. Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Jackson County in the southern part of Oregon have increased to 248,080 souls, and our deceased have increased to 360. Bad news. Pollen, though, is rated as none right outside the window in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is good at 20 parts per million, though we continue under air stagnation advisory, and the daytime UV index is low at level 1. Barometric pressure is rising at 30.2 inches, visibility is down to 4 miles, and relative humidity is at 100%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. London is 47 and cloudy. Paris is 40 degrees and cloudy. Rome is 55 and sunny. Kyiv is 33 degrees with light snow. Kabul is 43 and mostly cloudy. Hong Kong is 60 degrees and clear. Tokyo is 47 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 66 and cloudy. San Francisco, California is 51 degrees and cloudy. And New York, New York is a chilly 43 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Edith Ann Lederer of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. More than 60 organizations urged the UN General Assembly on Thursday yesterday to establish an investigative body to gather and preserve evidence of serious human rights violation during Yemen's 7-year conflict, including possible war crimes and crimes against humanity. The organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, said the matter is urgent, particularly after the UN Human Rights Council voted in October to shut down its investigation into atrocities in Yemen. The group of eminent experts had reported that potential war crimes had been committed by all sides. The Geneva-based council's vote was a stinging defeat for Western nations and a victory for Russia, China, Bahrain, and other countries. Yemen has been convulsed by a civil war since 2014 when Iran-backed Houthi rebels took control of the capital and much of the northern part of the country. That forced the internationally recognized government to flee to the south, then to Saudi Arabia.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière, la promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle, c'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Staff at the Associated Press bring us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. The killing of at least 65 protesters in Myanmar's biggest city on March 14th this year was planned and premeditated, and the perpetrators must be brought to justice, a human rights watchdog said in a report released yesterday, Thursday. Human Rights Watch accused security forces of deliberately encircling and using lethal force against crowds in Yangon's working-class neighborhood that were demonstrating against the military's February 1 seizure of power from the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Soldiers and police, armed with military assault rifles, fired on trapped protesters and on those trying to assist the wounded, killing at least 65 protesters and bystanders, the New York-based organization said. The military-installed government, which imposed martial law in the area after the violence, has described the protesters as rioters who burned down garment factories and blocked firefighters. Human Rights Watch said no action is known to have been taken against any members of the security forces. No government official was immediately available for comment. Human Rights Watch's Myanmar researcher Manny Mong told the AP the security forces' actions constitute the crime against humanity of murder. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and the week. But you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up on Monday for River City Hash Mondays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night and all weekend for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here on Monday, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, l'âge tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, l'âge tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.